The wine glass caught the light as Douglas raised it above his head, and I remember thinking how beautiful it looked for just a second before he opened his mouth. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to make a toast to my girlfriend Paisley, my personal maid with benefits. The laughter that erupted around Claire's living room hit me like ice water. 23 people, all staring, all laughing, and there I stood in my carefully chosen dress, the one I'd spent an hour getting ready in because I wanted to make a good impression on our landlord's daughter and her friends. Douglas was swaying slightly, that stupid grin plastered across his face like he'd just delivered the punchline of the century. She cooks, she cleans, she pays half the rent. What more could a guy ask for? More laughter. Claire's boyfriend actually high-fived him. I felt my cheeks burning, my hands trembling as I set down my own glass on the marble countertop. The room was spinning, not from alcohol. I'd barely touched my first drink, but from the sheer humiliation of it all. "Doug, that's enough," I managed to say, but my voice came out smaller than I intended. He turned to me, still grinning, and actually had the audacity to blow me a kiss. "Aw, don't be like that, babe. Everyone knows it's true. You love taking care of me." The way he said taking care made my skin crawl. Like I was his mother, his servant, anything but his partner. I tried to leave then, just quietly slip out the back door and go home. But Douglas grabbed my wrist as I passed him. "Where are you going? Party's just getting started." He held up my purse, the one I'd been reaching for, and waved it in the air like a trophy. "Look at this, guys. She's got her whole life in here. Receipts, coupons, a color-coded planner. My little Paisley, so organized, so boring." That word, boring. He'd been using it more and more lately, always with that same dismissive tone. Boring when I asked him to help with dishes. Boring when I wanted to stay in instead of going to another party. Boring when I tried to talk about my promotion at work. Everything about me had become boring to him, except when he needed something. I yanked my purse from his hand and walked out without another word. Behind me, I heard him call out, "She'll be back. She always comes back." More laughter followed me into the night. The October air was sharp against my hot face as I walked the 3 blocks back to our apartment. Our apartment, though I'd been paying 60% of the rent for the last 8 months because Douglas kept having cash flow issues with his freelance graphic design work. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on our couch, the one I'd bought with my year-end bonus, and stared at the wall where Douglas had hung his vintage movie posters. Crooked. All of them. I'd offered to help him use a level when he put them up, but he'd waved me off. It's called character, Paisley. Not everything has to be perfect. The front door opened at 3:47 a.m. I know because I'd been watching the clock, counting the hours since the party. Douglas stumbled in, reeking of whiskey and cigarettes. He only smoked when he was really drunk. He collapsed next to me on the couch, his head immediately finding my shoulder like it always did, like nothing had happened. "Baby," he slurred. "You left early. Missed the best part." Jake brought out his guitar and we did karaoke until Claire kicked us out. His hand found mine, squeezing it with that casual possessiveness I'd once mistaken for affection. "You're not mad about the joke, are you?" Everyone knew I was kidding. I pulled my hand away. "It wasn't a joke, Doug. You humiliated me in front of everyone we know." He lifted his head, squinting at me in the dim light from the kitchen. "God, you're so sensitive. It was just fun. You need to lighten up." There it was again. My feelings being too much. My reactions overblown, my hurt invalid. "I cook every meal. I clean this entire apartment. I pay more than half of everything while you figure out your career. And you called me your maid with benefits." The words came out steady, controlled. I'd practiced them in my head for hours. Douglas rolled his eyes and stood up, swaying slightly. "Here we go. Saint Paisley, martyr of the household. You think you're so much better than me because you have your little office job? Because you color-code your calendar?" He walked to the kitchen, pulling open the fridge I'd just stocked yesterday. "Newsflash, nobody forced you to do any of that. You do it because you're a control freak who needs everything your way." I watched him pull out the sandwich I'd made for my lunch tomorrow, taking a huge bite without asking. That's when something inside me finally broke, or maybe it finally fixed itself. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just said, "You're right. Nobody forced me. And nobody's forcing me to keep doing it either." He laughed through a mouthful of turkey and Swiss. "What's that supposed to mean? You gonna go on strike? Refuse to do laundry for a week to teach me a lesson?" He was still chuckling as he headed to our bedroom. "Wake me up at 9, yeah? I've got that client meeting at noon." The next morning, I didn't wake him up. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a cup of coffee, opening a spreadsheet I titled Reality Check. Column A, item. Column B, who paid. Column C, cost. I started with the obvious things: rent, utilities, groceries. Then I moved on to the furniture, the electronics, the kitchen supplies. 2 hours in, and the number at the bottom of column C was making me nauseous. Douglas stumbled out of the bedroom at 11:15, panicking about his meeting. "Why didn't you wake me up? You know I'm terrible with alarms." He was throwing on yesterday's clothes, not even noticing I was sitting right there. "Can you iron my blue shirt?" The client's kind of uptight about appearance. "No," I said, not looking up from my screen. He froze. One shoe on, one shoe off. "What do you mean, no?" I finally looked at him. "I mean no. Iron your own shirt, or wear it wrinkled. Or don't go to the meeting, it's not my problem." The look on his face was almost comical, genuine confusion mixed with irritation. "Paisley, I don't have time for whatever this is. Just help me out, and we can talk about your feelings later. He said feelings like it was a dirty word. My feelings are that you're a grown man who can iron his own shirt. I went back to my spreadsheet, adding the iron to the list. I'd bought that too. He cursed, grabbed the wrinkled shirt, and stormed out. 20 minutes later, I got a text. Lost the client. Thanks a lot. Hope you're happy. I added his half of next month's rent to a new column. Doug's responsibility. That evening, he came home with flowers, gas station roses, the $7.99 bunch that still had the price sticker on the plastic. I'm sorry about last night, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. I was drunk, and I said stupid things. You know, I appreciate everything you do. What exactly do you appreciate? I asked, genuinely curious. He shifted uncomfortably. You know, the cooking and stuff. How you keep everything organized. The way you always remember to buy my favorite cereal. He paused, clearly thinking he was doing well. And you're pretty. Really pretty. The guys are always telling me how lucky I am. I wanted to laugh, or cry, or throw the tacky roses at his head. Instead, I said, Doug, when was the last time you cooked dinner? He frowned, thinking, I don't know. That time I made pasta? That was 4 months ago. He'd boiled spaghetti and opened a jar of sauce, then acted like he'd prepared a 5-course meal. When was the last time you cleaned the bathroom? I continued. His frown deepened. You're better at that stuff. You have a system. When was the last time you paid the full rent on time? Now he was getting angry. I told you. Freelance work is unpredictable. You know I'm good for it when things pick up. Things had been about to pick up for over a year. I started my exit strategy that week. It began small. I stopped cooking elaborate dinners. Instead, I'd make myself something simple and leave him to figure out his own meals. The first night, he ordered pizza and made a point of not offering me any. The second night, he tried to cook chicken and nearly gave himself food poisoning because he didn't know you had to check if it was done in the middle. By the third night, he was eating cereal for dinner and glaring at me like I'd committed a war crime. This is really petty, Paisley, he said, crunching through his third bowl of Captain Crunch. I apologized for the party. What more do you want? I want a partner, not a child, I replied, loading my single plate into the dishwasher. And you're not even a well-behaved child. He slammed his spoon down. There you go again with the insults. You think you're so perfect? You're neurotic. You can't relax. You make spreadsheets for everything. Who makes a spreadsheet for grocery shopping? Someone who actually buys groceries? I shot back. The argument escalated from there. He called me controlling, uptight, joyless. I called him lazy, entitled, delusional. We'd had fights before, but this was different. I wasn't trying to fix things anymore. I was just done. That weekend, while Douglas was at his friend Jake's place watching football, I started documenting everything. I took photos of every piece of furniture, every appliance, every decoration that I'd paid for. The couch, the television, the coffee maker, the bathroom rug. My phone filled up with evidence of my financial investment in this supposed partnership. I even found receipts I'd saved, probably knowing somewhere deep down that this day would come. My best friend Avery came over that afternoon. She took one look at my evidence folder and whistled low. Girl, you basically bought this entire apartment. I know, I said, feeling both vindicated and stupid. I kept thinking if I just made things nice enough, comfortable enough, he'd appreciate it. He'd want to contribute, Avery snorted. Men like Douglas don't contribute. They consume. And when you stop feeding them, they just find another source. She was right, of course. I'd seen him do it with his previous girlfriend, though I'd convinced myself I was different. Special. God, I'd been an idiot. So what's the plan? Avery asked, scrolling through my photos. You can't keep living like this. I showed her the apartment listing I'd bookmarked. A studio downtown, small but clean, and most importantly, mine. I'm signing the lease on Tuesday. Then I'm taking everything that's mine and leaving him to figure out the rest. Tuesday came faster than expected. I signed the lease during my lunch break, my hand shaking slightly as I wrote the check for the security deposit. The landlord, an older woman named Martha, smiled at me kindly. Starting fresh? She asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Good for you, honey. Sometimes that's exactly what we need. That evening, Douglas was in rare form. He'd actually gotten a small project, designing a logo for his cousin's food truck, and was acting like he'd landed a Fortune 500 contract. See, babe? I told you things would turn around. We should celebrate. Let's go to that new sushi place. Can you afford it? I asked, continuing to pack my work bag for tomorrow. He laughed. The project pays $800. We can splurge a little. $800. That wouldn't even cover his half of the rent he'd been shorting me on. You should put that toward the bills you owe, I said carefully. His good mood evaporated instantly. There you go again with the money talk. Can't you just be happy for me? Support me for once? The irony of him asking for my support almost made me laugh out loud. We didn't go to the sushi place. He went to the bar with Jake, and I started quietly moving my important documents to Avery's place. Birth certificate, passport, tax documents, the jewelry my grandmother had left me. Small things he wouldn't notice were gone. Wednesday and Thursday, I moved more. My favorite books, my winter clothes, my good laptop. I told Douglas I was donating things to Goodwill, decluttering like that Marie Kondo show. He barely looked up from his video game. Cool. Make some space. This place is getting cramped. Friday was my last day of pretending. I called in sick to work and waited for Douglas to leave for his cousin's food truck meeting. The moment his car pulled away, Avery arrived with her brother's pickup truck. We worked like a perfectly coordinated team. She packed while I dismantled and carried. The television came off the wall, leaving clean squares where the mounting brackets had been. The couch got wrapped in blankets and carried out. The coffee maker, the microwave, the vacuum cleaner, all loaded up. 3 hours later, the apartment looked like a crime scene of missing objects. The living room had his gaming chair and nothing else. The kitchen had his dirty dishes and a single pot I'd never seen him use. The bedroom still had the bed. He'd bought that before we met, but I took the sheets, the pillows, and the bedside lamps. I left him the vintage movie posters, still crooked on the walls. The pièce de résistance was the note I left on the kitchen counter, held down by his favorite mug, the only dish he ever washed. It was 3 pages long, itemized like an invoice. Every month of rent I'd covered when he was short, every utility bill I'd paid in full, every grocery trip, every household item, every piece of furniture. At the bottom, I'd calculated the total, $16,847. Under that, I wrote, "This doesn't include the cooking, cleaning, laundry, appointment scheduling, emotional labor, or general adulting I did for you. Consider those services terminated. The apartment is yours now, rent's due on the 1st. Don't forget to clean the toilets. The brush is under the bathroom sink, although actually I bought that too, so never mind. Good luck." I sat in my new studio that night, surrounded by boxes and eating takeout Chinese straight from the container. My phone had been silent for hours. Douglas usually texted me throughout the day. Reminders to pick things up, questions about where things were, complaints about his clients. The silence felt strange but good, like taking off too tight shoes. At 9:47 p.m., the calls started. I watched his name flash on my screen 17 times before he switched to texts. They started confused. "Where's all the stuff? Is this some kind of joke? Paisley? What the hell?" Then angry. "You can't just take everything. This is theft. I'm calling the police." Then bargaining. "Okay, I get it. You're mad. Can we talk? At least bring back the television. You know I need the microwave for work lunches." Finally, desperation. "Please answer me. I'm sorry about everything. I need you to come back. Paisley, please." I turned off my phone and slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I had 43 missed calls and over 100 texts. The last one, sent at 4:33 a.m., simply said, "The landlord wants to know why the apartment is empty. What do I tell him?" I typed back my only response, "The truth." Then I blocked his number. What I didn't expect was the social media explosion. By Saturday afternoon, Douglas had taken to Facebook with a carefully crafted sob story. "Came home to find my girlfriend of 2 years has left me and taken everything. I'm sitting in an empty apartment, heartbroken and confused. I thought we were happy. I guess you never really know someone." The comments poured in immediately. Jake called me a cold-hearted witch. Douglas's mom, Sharon, wrote a lengthy paragraph about how she'd welcomed me into their family, and this was how I repaid them. Claire, our landlord's daughter, posted that she was shocked and disappointed by my behavior. I watched it all unfold from Avery's couch, eating popcorn like it was a movie. "You gonna respond?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not yet. Let him dig the hole deeper." And dig he did. He posted photos of the empty apartment, carefully angled to look as pathetic as possible. He shared memories of better times, photos where I was always cooking or cleaning in the background while he smiled at the camera. He even posted a picture of the note I'd left, though conveniently cropped to only show, "Consider those services terminated." His friends rallied around him. Someone started a GoFundMe to help Doug rebuild after abandonment. It raised $237. Someone else offered him their old couch. Claire said she'd talked to her dad about the rent situation. Meanwhile, I was setting up my studio, organizing my things exactly how I wanted them. No compromises, no negotiations about where things should go. I hung my own art on the walls, straight, using a level. I arranged my books by color because I thought it looked pretty and there was no one to tell me it was impractical. Sunday night, Sharon called me from Douglas's phone. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Paisley, honey," she started, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I don't know what Douglas did, but surely this is an overreaction. You've taken everything. He doesn't even have a way to cook food. He has a stove, Sharon, and hands, and YouTube tutorials if he needs them. But you know he doesn't know how to do those things. Then maybe it's time he learned." She sighed dramatically. "Is this about money? We can work something out. Douglas told me you've been keeping track of expenses. That's not how relationships work, sweetie. You're supposed to support each other." I laughed. Actually laughed. Support each other? Sharon, when's the last time Douglas supported me in anything? When I got promoted, he sulked because I'd be working longer hours. When I wanted to take that art class, he said it was a waste of money. My money, by the way. The only thing he ever supported was my bank account supporting his lifestyle. He's trying, Paisley. The freelance market is tough. Sharon. He's had 3 clients in the past year. One was you, one was his cousin, and one was a friend from college who felt bad for him. That's not a career. It's a hobby that other people subsidize. The real entertainment started Monday when the rent was due. I got a text from Claire. Apparently, I was still in the group chat for the building. "Did you really leave Doug with no notice? Dad's freaking out because Doug says he can't pay full rent. I screenshot the 6 months of text messages where I'd begged Douglas to contribute his full half. The ones where he promised he would next month every single month. The ones where he said I was being materialistic for caring so much about money. I posted them all in the group chat. Also, I added, I gave him 3 days notice, which is more than he gave me before humiliating me at your party. Remember? When he called me his maid with benefits? You all laughed. The chat went silent. Later that day, Douglas's friend Marcus called me. Marcus had always been the reasonable one in their group. Paisley, look, I know Doug can be an ass, but he's really struggling. Can't you at least give him back the television? He's got nothing to do all day. He could look for a job, I suggested. Full-time, with benefits, like an actual adult. You know that's not who he is. He's creative. He needs freedom to pursue his art. His art? Marcus. He's designed 3 logos in a year. I've seen 14-year-olds on TikTok with more artistic output. He's not pursuing art. He's pursuing an extended adolescence funded by whoever's willing to enable him. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, the maid with benefits thing was messed up. We all knew it, but nobody said anything. I'm sorry about that. It was the first genuine apology I'd gotten from anyone. Tuesday brought new drama. Douglas had apparently tried to cook a real meal and had somehow managed to set off the smoke alarm 3 times. Claire's dad, Mr. Peterson, was not amused. According to the building group chat, he'd given Douglas a warning about the rent and another warning about the disturbances. Wednesday, the GoFundMe got taken down. Turns out someone, definitely not me, probably not Avery either, we would never, had reported it with screenshots of Douglas's Instagram showing him at expensive bars and restaurants over the past month, captioned with things like living my best life and work hard, play harder. Hard to claim desperate need when you're dropping $50 on craft cocktails. Thursday, Sharon called again. This time, she was less sweet. You're ruining his life over petty relationship drama. What kind of woman does this? The kind who got tired of being treated like an unpaid intern in her own relationship, I replied. And it's not petty when it's $16,847 worth of financial exploitation. He'll pay you back. We'll set up a payment plan. With what money, Sharon? And why should I trust him now when he's had 2 years to show me he's responsible? She hung up on me. Douglas immediately tried to call from his own phone, forgetting I'd blocked him. Then from Jake's phone. Then from Marcus's. I blocked them all. Friday morning, exactly 1 week after I'd left, the situation reached critical mass. Mr. Peterson had issued an eviction notice. Douglas had 30 days to pay the back rent plus late fees or get out. The total came to almost $3,000, which might as well have been $3 million to someone with Douglas's financial habits. I know all this because Claire texted me privately. My dad's really pissed. Doug tried to convince him that you were the primary tenant and should be responsible. Dad pulled the lease. Only Doug's name is on it. Did you know that? I did know that. Douglas had insisted on it when we moved in, saying it would be easier with just one name. I'd agreed because I trusted him. Now it was his problem entirely. Also, Claire continued, I'm sorry about the party. The maid thing wasn't funny. I should have said something. Another apology. They were trickling in now that the truth was spreading. That afternoon, Douglas did something I didn't expect. He showed up at my office. Security called up to warn me there was a distressed gentleman in the lobby claiming to be my boyfriend. I told them I didn't have a boyfriend and to please escort him out. 20 minutes later, he was waiting by my car in the parking garage. He looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, eyes red-rimmed. For a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. Paisley, please. Just 5 minutes. Let me explain. Explain what, Douglas? How you treated me like hired help. How you disrespected me publicly. How you gaslit me into thinking I was unreasonable for wanting an equal partner. I know I messed up, I see that now. But this, he gestured vaguely at himself, this is cruel. You've destroyed my life. No, Douglas, I stopped propping up your life. There's a difference. What you're experiencing now is just reality without a safety net named Paisley. He actually started crying then. Not the manipulative tears I'd seen before when he wanted something, but real, ugly crying. I don't know how to do this. Any of it. The rent, the cooking, the cleaning. I don't even know where to buy toilet paper. Grocery store, aisle 7, usually. Download some apps, watch some YouTube videos, call your mom, figure it out like every other adult on the planet. I got in my car, but he grabbed the door. I loved you, he said desperately. No, Douglas, you loved what I did for you. There's a difference. I drove away and didn't look back. That weekend, the social media narrative started shifting. Someone leaked the full note I'd left, with all the financial details. Marcus publicly admitted that Douglas had been bragging about how he'd trained me to handle everything. Jake's girlfriend dumped him, saying she didn't want to end up like me. The GoFundMe resurface became a meme in our social circle, the $237 man-baby fund. By week 3, Douglas had moved back in with his parents. Mr. Peterson had started eviction proceedings, and Sharon had swooped in to rescue her baby boy. According to the grapevine, she was now doing his laundry and packing his lunches for job interviews he wasn't going to. He tried one more time to contact me, this time through email with the subject line, please read, important. The email was long, a mixture of accusations, apologies, and threats to take me to small claims court for stealing his belongings. I forwarded it to my friend who was a paralegal, along with all my receipts and documentation. She laughed and said he didn't have a leg to stand on. A month after I left, I ran into Claire at a coffee shop. She was with a group of friends, and they all went quiet when they saw me. Then one of them, a girl I'd met at that awful party, said, "That was badass, what you did." My boyfriend started doing his own laundry the next day. We ended up talking for an hour. Turns out, several relationships in their circle had undergone restructuring after my exodus. The Great Paisley Protocol, they called it, when a woman stops accepting less than she deserves and leaves the man-child to fend for himself. Douglas, meanwhile, was living in his childhood bedroom, working part-time at a print shop that his dad's friend owned. His Instagram went from living my best life to motivational quotes about rising from the ashes and learning from mistakes. He'd lost weight, turns out. Cap'n Crunch for dinner wasn't sustainable long-term. 3 months later, I was having wine with Avery in my perfectly organized, beautifully decorated studio when she asked, "Any regrets?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Just one," I said. She looked surprised. "I regret not leaving sooner." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hey, this is Douglas. New phone. I just wanted to say I understand now. What I put you through. I'm in therapy, working on myself. I don't expect anything from you, but I wanted you to know that you leaving was the wake-up call I needed. I'm sorry for everything." I showed it to Avery. "You gonna respond?" she asked. I deleted the message. "No, that's not my project anymore." 6 months after the Great Escape, I was promoted to senior manager. I was taking that art class I'd wanted. I was dating a man who cooked me dinner and actually washed the dishes afterward. My apartment was my sanctuary. Every corner reflecting my choices, my style, my life. Sometimes I'd think about Douglas, wonder if he'd really changed or if he'd just found another Paisley to prop him up. But mostly, I didn't think about him at all. He'd become what he'd always been without me, someone else's problem. The last I heard, through the ever-churning gossip mill, he'd started dating a girl from his therapy group. She was teaching him about boundaries and emotional labor. Good for her. Good for him. Good for everyone who learns that partnership means both people showing up, both people contributing, both people caring. As for me, I was free. Free from the mental load of managing another adult's life. Free from the resentment that built up day by day, dish by dish, excuse by excuse. Free to be boring, organized, and color-coded without apology. To anyone reading this who sees themselves in my story, either as the Paisley or the Douglas, know this. You deserve better than being someone's maid with benefits. And if you're the one being catered to, remember that every free ride eventually ends. The question is whether you'll be ready when it does, or if you'll be crying in an empty apartment, wondering where all the furniture went. The furniture went with the person who paid for it, the person who got tired of being taken for granted, the person who finally realized that love shouldn't feel like unpaid labor and that partnership means both people pulling their weight. Pack light, pack smart, and remember, when you finally leave, the trash tends to take itself out.